talking about doing away with the entire Department of Education. He's talking, he means it. This is not a joke. This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify in his mind as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. Learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly.
Good morning. Make your TV network. We're live on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana, expanding rapidly. I don't want to jinx anything that we have going on, so I'm not going to spread anything. I'm not going to share anything about that. But I can tell you we have a lot going on. Hats off to my main. A lot going on today. Over these days, the rhetoric. They wanted to play those 3 clips at the opening of the show just to kind of get people in going on. The title of our show, Putin Toast at BRICS Summit. You saw him. The dollarization is in effect. I'll tell you what, guys, sanctions really blew up in our faces. They really outsmarted by the Putin. Real banking cartel has the U.S. dollar, but that is officially the U.S. currency. But by using that as a weapon against all of these different countries, we have put ourselves in a situation where they are now de-dollarizing across the world. That is going to hurt us in our pocketbook big time. Okay, it's going to hurt big time. Already, of course, you see they're trading oil. That was kind of a big deal. That long time deal that we had with them is now over with Saudi Arabia. You don't have to buy dollars in order to buy oil. Now you had to buy dollars. You didn't have dollars. You had to go buy them in order to buy oil. And that, of course, was somewhat of a backing, right? It was somewhat of a backing, because now there's, of course, nothing really that backs the U.S. dollar besides our military. And you can see what's going on in the Ukraine and in Israel. In Israel, they've lost a big number of tanks over the last little bit, depending on who you talk to, whatever the number is. They've lost a bunch. In the Ukraine, the NATO has gotten their butts beat for the last bit. This just slow war that Putin has waged, slowly draining the U.S. and NATO allies of all of our equipment and money, getting us to the point where the population of the United States has absolutely had it up to here. We've had it up to here, okay? Nobody wants to pay for these foreign wars. My man Thomas Massey out today. As a matter of fact, it's worth showing that clip. As a matter of fact, my main man here, Rep. Thomas Massey, he's the man with the plan right there. And it's actually better if I just go ahead and play it, as a matter of fact. Here he is. Share this tab. He says, if Israel insists on destroying civilian targets in Lebanon, let them buy and build their own weapons. American taxpayers should not be funding this. And you can watch this. Ridiculous what's going on in there. You talk about even they're like, oh, I don't even, it's just horrible what's going on in there. They just feel like they can kill anybody. Oh, there's some bad guys around there, so we just killed everybody. War has rules. We have rules to war, as a matter of fact. We have rules to war, okay? They're using all types of different bombs they're not supposed to use, phosphorus, whatever this stuff is. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of indications that they are behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy wanted to look at their nuclear sites. He wanted to get us out of the Federal Reserve, which, of course, the Federal Reserve, the banking cartel, is all Israelis. And then, he ended up dead. Of course, Nixon kind of went against them too, and he ended up ousted. And you go on down the list. Thomas Massey came out and told us all that AIPAC. Everybody has an AIPAC handler. At least all the Republican congressmen have an AIPAC handler. Thomas Massey told us. Everybody has one that they answer to. That's their guy, an AIPAC guy. We have foreign influence on our election, and John F. Kennedy wanted to make them register as foreign agents. As a matter of fact, he made them register as foreign agents under the American Zionist Council, AZC. And after he was assassinated, they just regrouped and came out under AIPAC. So Putin is kicking our butt, for sure. And it's hard to say that we don't deserve it, to be honest with you. It's a relative term. Re is a relative term, okay? And then you have the rhetoric is just getting crazier and crazier. And you have Joe Biden coming out and saying that we need to lock him up. We need to arrest Trump. Literally 2 weeks before the U.S. election, he is calling for the arrest of his front runner, of his biggest opponent, the person who is winning by pretty much all the polls. They're going to have to cheat so bad in this election. The entire world is going to know. The entire world already knows, guys. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. It's not even a conversation. I'll tell you what. I even hear in like blue DC, guys. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everyone knows. 2020 was a sham. 2022 was a sham. And we're about to go into 2024. And we're going to get whatever the magic electronic voting machines and the mail-in ballots get us. That's it. That's what we're going to get. We did nothing about the mail-in ballots. We did nothing about the magic electronic voting machines. Nothing. The Republicans did zero. They did nothing. As a matter of fact, Mike Lindell had a plan in order to fix it. And you had guys like Seb Gorka. Seb Gorka's direct messaging me. Hey, Bruce, why are you being so hard on Praheet, is that her name? She was running for the RNC chair. Yeah, why am I being so hard on Praheet? Why are you supporting Praheet? Mike Lindell has a plan to end the voting. He has a plan to stop the magic electronic voting machines. What has Praheet ever done except leave Arizona? And I understand somebody told me that her mom was sick or her parents were sick or something, and I feel bad for them. She definitely should go and take care of them. And I'm sure the RNC told her to leave. She didn't just leave on her own. But as the challenges came up to the 2020 election, she left. 2022, completely ineffective. Now, I don't know her, and I don't know the whole story. Maybe I'll meet her, and she'll tell me, hey, the details, and I'll know more, okay? But to me, why in the world are you going to go against Mike Lindell when Mike Lindell has a plan to get us off the magic electronic voting machines? And they just played us against each other. And you have guys like him, and everybody likes Seb Gorka. I never had a problem with Seb Gorka, but he's messaging me. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you being so hard on her? I don't support Mike Lindell. No. Why? Why not? Mike Lindell is the only one with the plan to fix anything. But everyone said, oh no, not Mike Lindell. So yeah, and battling back and forth, whatever. And then Rona kept on for a little while. And then what did they do? Rona picked this guy, whoever the heck he is RNC chair now. She picked him. That was her successor. And then they put Laura Trump as the junior RNC chair or whatever. Seems to be absolutely powerless. And we got nothing. We did nothing to change. So 2020 was cooked. 2022 was cooked. And here we go rolling into 2024, which is supposed to be the biggest and most important election of our lives. And we didn't do anything. And that's why everybody running around here, you know, and I know Elon is pushing, everybody's pushing really hard. But like, what are we pushing? We're pushing magic electronic voting machines and mail-in ballots. We needed to be pushing over the last 2 or 4 years in order to change the situation. So Putin's toasting everybody about the de-dollarization. You got Joe Biden coming out, and he's calling for the arrest of his opponent. And then you have Kamala come out, and she, oh my gosh, Trump. She doesn't say Trump is Hitler, whatever she says he is. He liked him. So what? He liked the generals. And Trump says all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, who cares? And General Kelly said, blah, 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 blah. I mean, but the fact that this is the rhetoric 2 weeks before our election, and who cares? This is the election of the United States, or is it the election of Israel? Like, what in the world? I just don't even like. So in a private conversation with General Kelly, Trump, but the rhetoric is very bad. And then she goes on and says, oh, this is the guy that killed 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. And I mean, excuse me, but there was like something like 80 million people that died in World War II. That's what always rubbed me the wrong way about the 6 million like number. Like, okay, that's bad. But there's like 80 million people that died in World War II. Hello? Anyway, do you guys really think that we can vote our way out of this? I'm not saying don't vote. Like, don't get me wrong. I see people that are saying, oh, you know, don't. I see people talking and they're trying to make people not vote and this and that and the other. I'm not saying don't vote. Go vote. But like, do you really think we're going to vote our way out of this? What is plan B? Is there a plan B? I don't think there's a plan B. And then the other part of what Kamala says, she says, this guy, he wants to, and or Biden said, you know, he wants to use our own military against us. They both said it. It was like planned, right? They both said they want to use our own military on American citizens. When it's these guys, Biden and Kamala, who have authorized just recently for the military to use deadly force on Americans. It's crazy times, because here's the thing. Trump should win, but I don't think he's going to win. He might not. He might not win. I don't see how they let him win after all this. Or they let him win and then they assassinate him. And we get Vance or whatever. I don't know. But life will go on, and like, I don't know. We're all, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. We got to figure out how to work with each other. We got to get off of this, this mess that we're in. We all have to vote, of course. And then you got all these states saying that they're not even going to approve the election. They're not even going to do it. They're not even going to approve the election. They're not even going to say it's there for days. 5-10 days. They're not going to give us the results of the election. We are in crazy times. These guys are a big reason why we've gotten here. Okay, they took over the United States in 1913. Federal Reserve Act. Central banking cartel took over the United States. They stole all your gold in 1933. And then they have continued to steal the rest of the value that you have. That's why your houses are so bloated in value and everything else that they can't inflate, like gold and Bitcoin and everything else is so expensive because they're inflating the dollar to no end. And as a matter of fact, what they've done over the last even year, pumping more dollars into the economy to make it look good. Right now, gas is pretty cheap, right? Everything's pretty cheap. Yeah, you just wait till after the election, folks. Ain't gonna be like that for long, I'll tell you that. No, sir. It is not. It is not. So hopefully we get Trump in and he's able to do something. Because the other thing is, I talked about it yesterday, right? Trump supporters can't even get a clearance to work for him. Can't even get a clearance. If you openly supported January 6th, which who didn't? The election was by any standards irregular. It should have at that congressional meeting been challenged by the states. Arizona was going to, some of the other states were going to. And then we all know what happened. So the markets are all over the place. They're up, they're down, they're all around. My brother just messaged me. He's the man we need for president, talking about this guy right here, Thomas Massey. The man we need for president right now, of course, he's not saying that we don't need Donald Trump right now. We need Donald Trump right now, but maybe next we get in this guy, okay? Everything is kind of a stepping stone at this point. We get Trump in, that's going to move forward. It's not going to do what we want to do. It's not going to end the Fed. Okay, it's not going to do a lot of the things that we want to do. It's going to do a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about the markets here. I got the great Matt Dixon, Sir Matt the Great, with the Market Watch report. Markets are all over the place. We're going to take it from there.
Morning, Bruce. Morning, Impact Money viewers. Got a packed show today. Going to run through all the assets as quickly as I can. Unfortunately, I'm out on meetings today, so I'm just recording slightly in advance, but pretty current on the markets. So we'll just start off with gold. Amazing run on gold. We've seen clearly here, new all-time high yet again. So we've been saying this over and over and over for almost a year now. It's almost a year's anniversary since we started this show. It's been an absolutely amazing run. I'm just playing around with the Fibonacci levels here just to see where we're potentially at. So this current final cycle here, this was clearly a corrective ABC wave here. So we can see, I'll just put them in very briefly for you. So we can clearly see, sorry, down here. In fact, I'll have to move that. So there's an A wave down to here. That's from this little top up here. This little top here had an A wave down, and then a B wave here. I mean, obviously you can guess where it's going to go. There's the B wave, and then the C wave, and that's actually a perfect correction. You know, it's overlapping movement, 3 waves, absolutely typical correction. So it's an ABC correction. So now we're looking at final impulse. I say final, that's in this cycle. There could be a bigger degree, and I think there is larger degree for new all-time highs. So what I do now is I'll measure from the bottom of that C wave to the top of this first wave, which you can see right here. This wave here is the top of that first wave. Then I'll transpose that, drag it across the bottom of the next corrective wave. So we've already passed 1.618. When you're looking at a third wave, I mean, actually gold, often the extended wave is the 5th wave. And if this were a 5th wave, a larger 5th wave, we could be looking much, much higher. But even within this cycle here, we've got a wave 1 here, wave 2 down here, working on a third wave. We've clearly already well surpassed the 1.618. Next target, probably 2.618. That could take us beyond $3,000 an ounce, which would be phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. So potentially quite some way to go. We're currently at around 2,700. So we're talking about more than 10% higher just to reach the 2.618. And that would not be the end of the cycle. We'd then expect some kind of modest correction and then more upside to new all-time highs. So I'm really confident on gold, and it is a hedge against uncertainty. And clearly we have a lot of uncertainty on the table right now. So we've got the US elections on the 5th. Bruce says we won't hear until maybe the day after. And then we've got interest rate decision on the 7th. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. And then we've got geopolitical uncertainty with Israel. And I understand possibly Trump is talking to Netanyahu. So who knows what they're talking about. But at some point, there'll be some sort of retaliatory action against Iran. That's from Israel's perspective. So that will cause a lot of turmoil. So there's still uncertainty, and I think that's driving the gold price continually higher. Interestingly, most things have been pushing higher. We got some great earnings yesterday out of Tesla, better than expected. But even so, there's a bit of a sell-off in the market. I think there's a bit of a recovery later on. Let's just jump into, well, we'll jump across to SPX. I mean, you can see it got a big sell-off. I say big sell-off. This is the daily. Let me go back to 4 hour just to put this into perspective, where we're at. So just enlarge that out a little bit. So you can see yesterday there's quite a substantial red candle to the downside. Doesn't maybe look that substantial in the long term, but this looks as though there's potentially more upside to come with S&P 500, with the SPX. So as traders always say, don't bet against the trend. Trend is your friend. And clearly the longer term trend, again, if I'd stayed on that, but you can see just from here, the long-term trend is definitely higher at the moment. And until you get some sort of confirmation of reversal, then don't bet against it. Another thing is, I've got a couple of moving averages on here, a 50 and a 200. They're used quite a lot by traders. When you see crossover, so for example, we saw crossover here with the S&P 500 when the price was down here. And from there, you can see that the 50 stayed above the 200. And as long as that's the case, then this trend, this is one measure of trend, the trend is continuing to the upside. And until the 50 crosses below the 200, then the trend is still higher. So, and very often you'll see that price tests down, but as long as you don't get a crossover, the 50 and the 200, then we're likely still pushing higher. So the outlook is still to the upside for the time being, and we will wait for a cross before we get any confirmation of a potential turn in the trend. So for the time being, that's looking positive. And again, we had, we're virtually there or thereabouts all-time highs. So oil, of course, we've had, we had quite a pullback on oil, rising a little bit again. I think this is still, a bit of a rise, maybe in expectation of something happening with Israel. I don't know when it's going to happen. Bruce said, and maybe he's right, that they'll wait until after the election. and maybe the Americans, the Israelis, they're reliant on America a lot for money. So America have the purse strings. They're pulling the strings as far as Israel is concerned, I think. So they may well have been told that they need to wait until after the election. So that may be why markets are still continuing to push higher and higher against a bit of a wall of worry, as we often say. There's a lot of uncertainties out there, but the market's still pushing nicely higher. DXY, dollar index, again, we can see very clearly pushed substantially higher. And this at some point may have a negative impact because we've still got high interest rates in the US compared with everywhere else. So they are going to be reducing them almost definitely now on the 7th of November. At that meeting, they'll reduce by 25 basis points, I think. That's what the market's expecting anyway. So that being the case, there's still going to be rates way above everywhere else. So the dollar will still look attractive compared with other currencies. And bear in mind, it's a kind of, it is competitive, it's comparative. So US economy is still relatively robust. We saw that with the Tesla earnings. And yet Europe, UK are really struggling on from a growth perspective. So we can see if we look at the pound has continued, well, it's a lot lower than it was. Only a couple of weeks ago, it was 131. Now it's 129. In currency terms, that's a fair move. So we're seeing the dollar continue in its strength, but surprisingly, it's not affecting. As I say, I think that's because the reason for the strength is that the US economy is still at the moment in a potential Goldilocks scenario, soft landing scenario, where they continue to maintain decent growth whilst hopefully still subduing inflation. But inflation is still a problem in the US. We know that inflation is still sky high. And we looked at all those inflation signals yesterday, and we looked at the uninversion of the bond curve, the 2-year against the 10-year. And that was a sign of potential recession coming. So there's all sorts of problems around the corner. But for the time being, things are looking good. The trend is higher. Whilst we're in a sideways correction overall, and I think we'll flip over to Bitcoin just to see that probably in better detail. And I'll just shrink the chart so we can really see where we're at. So again, you can see that we've basically had a strong move up from the FTX low at 15,000. We moved up to 73,000 all-time high. That was off the back of the ETF earlier in the year. And then we've had a corrective down, looking like a corrective higher. And I think there's probably some more down to come before we then push to new all-time high, I believe, on the horizon for Bitcoin. It just depends if and when we do drop lower. As I say, there's a lot of uncertainty. If there was an Israel attack on Iran, it's almost definitely going to have a negative impact on the markets. Oil price would rocket. That means the cost for business is very, very high. And all that uncertainty, so then you'd expect a correction in the market, but for the time being that's not happened, and that's why the markets are continuing to rise. But I'm just saying it's a concerning rise in the market because it doesn't look to be impulsive at all. And even as I said yesterday, if this was counted as a leading diagonal, which is an impulse, we still expect a correction to the downside, which is pretty well what's happening at the moment. The one that's really bucking the trend right now is Solana, which is it's pulling back a little bit now, but it reached our target that we detailed yesterday. When I say target, there's a couple of targets. There's a potential upside target with this overhead resistance line that I've drawn in, which touches the previous pivot highs here and here. Potentially we might reach to that, but for the time being, there was a serious resistance here at this very level, and that's precisely where the price so far has turned. So if we measure the A wave, I'll just do that now to show you what I've done. From the bottom here to the top of the A wave, I then transpose it to the bottom of the B wave, about there, and that gave us the precise point, which was 174.89, I think we have here. 174.60 actually, I think is the no, it's not. Let's just check what the level is exactly. Yeah, it's 174.70. So that was the peak. We're now at 172.99. So you can see it actually turned on the dot, exactly where we initially expected. I said this is a good risk reward level, but there's still risk going a little bit higher potentially to test this overhead resistance. But potentially we'll get a reasonable bit of a correction down now. So again, I'm being very, very careful. Right, I mean, we're only days away, really, a couple of weeks at most away from this election, away from interest rate decision. There's going to be a lot of nervousness in the market, and this Israel trouble, of course. So there's a lot of nervousness in the market. And whilst things are looking reasonably stable at the moment, I think there's just so much uncertainty there. I'm very, very nervous about taking long positions. Now, if, for example, with Solana, we were to break through this red line, break above, and then maybe retest it, then I'd be thinking about, okay, the correction's over here and we're pushing ahead for highs much higher. But for the time being, whilst we're below these levels, this resistance here at 100% extension of the A wave and this overhead resistance here, that's keeping me quite nervous about potentially where we're going with the markets. I'm just going to touch on one here. We'll flip around a bit, but one I was asked to look at, which was ICP. So first of all, we look at what I tend to do is look at a slightly longer term picture. In fact, what I'll probably do, I'll go to the daily to show a long-term picture of ICP. That's Internet Computer. We talked about it a few times, got some great tech, but it's had a tremendous fall from its previous all-time high, which I think was around $400. So now we're at $8. You can see how dramatically it's fallen. But it looks as though potentially it's got lower to go fairly soon. So we've had, looking from here, and I'll just probably open that out so you can see where we're looking from. From this top level here, we've moved down. We're getting some sort of consolidation here, where you can see everywhere anyway, we're getting lower highs all the way along, lower highs. Even here's lower high, here's lower high. We're currently at a, and even if we open this out in a minute on the shorter time frame, again, we'll see lower highs. So at the moment, it's actually looking quite negative from a chart perspective. I think that this is a consolidation sideways after this fall here, maybe a three-wave, possibly five-wave. I'd have to look at smaller time frames to be sure. But anyway, a move down here is a corrective move sideways, slightly higher. I think there's going to be another move down to take ICP much lower. So that's kind of in tune with my expectation on the rest of the markets. So that's looking at the daily. I'm just going to flip right to a shorter time frame, the 1 hour. And again, I'll need to just open this out a little bit so we can actually see what we're looking at. Let's try and expand that some more. I think we're just about getting there now. Yeah. So again, we can see even on the shorter time frame, it showed on the bigger time frame that we're getting lower highs. But look at this, lower high than the previous, lower high than the previous, lower high than the previous, and even right now, a lower high than the previous. And potentially, well, right now we are pushing down a bit. So this being some kind of larger corrective move sideways, slightly higher. I think there's going to be another move down, quite a substantial move down, and that could come at any time. I'm very, very nervous on these current markets at the moment. So at the moment, everything's looking pretty well mixed across the board. We can see that gold's obviously higher. As I say, we've been bullish gold, but in crypto terms, we're pretty much flat across the board. So there's not really anything to trade particularly. Nothing really jumps out. I think when the risk is very high, some people like it because there's big volatility, but the thing is it could really break sharply either way. So my advice would be, if you're trading, you will need to trade very carefully with your risk and reward and your stop losses, and be prepared to take losses, because the market can really flip very quickly either way when there's all this risk on the table at the moment, which none of it is actually manifested. None of it's actually manifested into market prices right now. So anything could happen very, very quickly. So that's the reason for my caution at the moment. And we're even seeing one of our favorites, Toncoin, again, fairly aggressive move down just at the moment. It's pushing down now. We can see that red candle developing. So again, this looks like we've had a corrective move to the upside. We can see some kind of A, B, C to the upside. So I think we're going to push below this low here. So we could see some lows coming on Toncoin as well. And even while I've been talking, Solana, which is one of the best ones the last few days, has fallen quite a bit further as we've been speaking. So overall, relatively negative outlook. I'll just look at Ethereum as well, obviously one of people's favorites. There's still a great future for Ethereum. Of course, we were talking the other day about real world assets. Now, Ethereum is still the favorite protocol. I think it's the E1400, I think, is the protocol they use for the real world assets. So Ethereum still has a great future. It's still, that's why it's still up there. It's still the number 2 in terms of cryptocurrencies. But even Ethereum, we're on the 1 hour now, which doesn't really help us that much. It's too short a time frame to be analyzing charts, in my view, unless you're a very short-term trader. But again, looking at a slightly longer time frame here, looking at the 4 hour, again, we can see we're in the midst of some kind of sideways correction. It is very much sideways. So from the low point here that we had 2,100, it's just been moving sideways. Yes, of course, we could push quite a bit higher short term, but still there's definitely a longer term, or should I say more like medium term low to come. But after this low, I think that we're still on for a test, at least a test of the all-time high for Ethereum, which is way, way above where we are now. So I think we'll maybe go through some challenging times in the very short term, maybe with Israel, etc. But I think I'm hoping we're going to get an amazing Christmas rally, a Santa rally that we talked about yesterday, and maybe carry through into the new year. So, once the election's over, once interest rates are maybe stabilized a little bit, and if things are looking a bit challenging, recession-wise, they're going to be printing money again. When they print money, it has to go somewhere, and it goes into risk assets like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Solana, etc., etc. So I'm expecting to be another pump in the markets before we see, any real trouble. So as I say, just to clarify once again before I leave, I'm expecting some probable downside or possible downside. So I'm being very, very nervous and cautious ahead of elections. Once that's all out of the way, and hopefully once this Israel issue is out of the way, I think they're hopefully going to have some major peace initiative come out of all this trouble. If that happens, then I think that peace initiative, there'll be a big drive. There'll be massive positivity everywhere. I think the markets are going to massively rally. As I say, Bitcoin all-time high, I think will smash straight through 73,000, straight through to massive new all-time highs for Bitcoin. Will challenge all-time highs and maybe make brand new all-time highs for Solana and for so many others. So long term, I'm really positive on these markets. Short term, I'm nervous. And that's pretty much it for today. So hope it's been helpful. And again, please do ask. As I say, somebody reached out to me about ICP. I think it's a bit of a negative short-term outlook. But again, longer term, after the big correction I'm expecting, or substantial correction I'm expecting, I think we will see even the likes of ICP rallying nicely. So I look forward to tomorrow. I'll give a recap, but we're going to focus on some more economic fundamentals and data and some themes tomorrow. Hopefully, give you a bit more information to base your trading decisions. So hope it helps. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.
The great Matt Dixon. Ha! All right. I'm on dad duty this morning. If I can get a little bit better light here. At the ice rink, as we do here with my family. Recorded my segment a little bit earlier there, and just got in here. So I round off, everything that we have going on here. Of course, crazy town, crazy times. I hope that we're going to be able to get out of the situation that we're in with the election, without further problems. The fact that, the decision that they've made, and obviously this is a coordinated decision, they just bring Obama in. Obama starts working with everybody. And what happens? They both, within the same 24 hours, I'm sorry, let me just say, hey, this guy, we need to put him in jail. or he's invoking Hitler and everything else. So that stuff's really worrying to me. It should be worrying to you as well. That type of rhetoric is, is really bad. It's really bad. And that type of rhetoric is what will make, assassination attempts and stuff like that happen. People are going to justify it to themselves. Well, I'm doing this for the greater good. We can't have Hitler, And just because someone disagrees with you politically, it's like I was saying earlier in the show, if Trump doesn't win, which should win, of course, but if they cheat and everything else and this and that and the other, life is going to go on. Life will go on. Might not look how you want it to look, but it will go on. And, we'll have to regroup and decide what we're going to do there. Any legal proceedings or anything like that, I mean, we all saw how that's going to go. The courts are completely cooked, as well as the voting apparatus. So don't expect anything at all. I mean, the courts wouldn't even hear anything. They wouldn't hear anything last time. So anyway, one of the things that Matt said that I would like to bring your attention to, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he said there, a lot of really great stuff. But one of the things is if you are trading, be very careful, okay? Because the uncertainty, the things that are uncertain are not resolved, okay? And, Israel has not attacked Iran yet, and they have promised to attack Iran. And the election has not happened yet. So these are big catalysts to what will happen. Now, if we have the election and Trump wins, of course, everybody thinks the markets are going to go crazy, and they might. But the central banking cartel doesn't want Trump in. And the reason they don't want Trump in is because the United States owes them a lot of money. And Trump wants to cut taxes. And the way that the central bank collects money from the United States is through taxes. That's how they do them. Everybody thinks you pay the government taxes. You don't. You pay the IRS. The IRS goes to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve gets the taxes, okay? So out of every, right now in 2023, I think the U.S., according to the U.S. Treasury, we spent $6.1 or $6.2 trillion, okay? We're now $36 trillion or $35 or $36 trillion in debt, or whatever it is, to the Federal Reserve, because every time that they print money, it's not even like they have the money and they let us borrow it. They don't. That's not what happens. They just print the money, and it's an IOU for what they're going to tax me and you. And that's the way it works. That's how it works, okay? And I talked about it a lot on the show. I don't know if really other people talk about it so much. Most people don't understand it. I will say that more people are starting to understand it. I'm starting to get more of, Bruce, it's over my head. I just can't, I don't get it, kind of throw their hands up kind of thing, because they know that I'm probably right, but they don't understand it. And that's an honest reaction. I can take that. So anyway, but they might not pump. So it's very interesting as well that we have the interest rate decision after the election. I thought, and I'd have to go back and review, but I thought the next interest rate decision was supposed to be on October 31st. So it would be interesting if I don't have time to do the homework, but if somebody else does, it would be interesting to see if, in fact, they did move the interest rate decision. They have as well minted so much money over the last bit that Elon has, of course, brought it out a few times that, brought attention to it. The great Elon Musk. And remember, guys, if it wasn't for Elon, we wouldn't even be able to talk about this stuff. We wouldn't even be able to talk about it. as a matter of fact, the Facebook is now. Let me just give you. I know the exactly what happened here. They are now under the rule of. Longtime senior Israeli government official and Netanyahu Likud advisor Jordana Cutler is now the chief of Facebook's U.S. censorship unit on Israel and Palestine. She repeatedly and aggressively uses that position to demand censorship of Israel critics. This is off another article here. It says, I've reviewed the internal meta records that show that the company's dedicated liaison to Israel government has repeatedly tried to censor Instagram posts belonging to pro-Palestinian student protest groups and other content related to war. And whether you're one of those people that thinks that Israel has this undying right to the land, even though it was started by the Rothschilds bankers about 70 years ago, it's not the same Israel from before. But even if you're one of those people in those camp that somehow believe that this is the ones from the Bible and they're supposed to have the land, they shouldn't have to kill everybody to get it. Okay, I think we should all be able to agree on that. You can think that they fluff numbers and all this stuff, but they've killed tens of thousands in the last year. Tens of thousands of kids, moms, grandmas. It's completely unacceptable. And it's completely unacceptable for anybody who takes a look at it to support it. So these things, though, haven't manifested. And so the banking cartel doesn't want him to be president because they want their money. They have loaned out these paper dollars, which are basically worthless. You can spend them now, but I mean, it's not like they had to go mine the gold or buy the Bitcoin or something like that. They literally tell the Treasury to print them up. The Treasury prints them up. But they attach to that every time they give us the money, they attach like 3 to 5% on there. So they're making, for every 100 billion, they make $3 billion. And then that gets tacked onto the national debt. And that's why Elon comes out. Elon doesn't want to buck the bankers. I get it. The banking cartel, those are the guys that probably assassinate people. Probably, okay. I'll say it probably, just because to keep myself on the air. Looks like to me. But he says those government spending. And yeah, it is government spending. But it's also enabled by the Federal Reserve. It's enabled by the banking cartel, okay? And they also have complete and unfettered ability to print whatever money they want. We have no control. So it's like I was talking to my friend yesterday or day before, and I was like, I hope people are starting to realize that Janet Yellen comes out and says the U.S. is going to give another $20 billion to Ukraine. Janet Yellen. We're not even talking about the president or something like this. Janet Yellen. Like, what? Did you elect Janet Yellen? Like, who is Janet Yellen to say that she's going to give $20 billion? Which, again, with their percent and everything else, they're going to make like $1 billion on or whatever, right? Like, what's going on? And I'll tell you what's going on is we gave them, they own the United States. They own our currency, which basically means they own us. And they can print whatever they want. We have no control. There's no oversight. They can print whatever they want. They can fund whatever they want. They try to go through these guys and make it look okay and keep everybody happy sometimes,
but they don't have to. They can print whatever they want, which means they can tax however much they want. It's crazy town. It's absolutely crazy. So, since you know that, if it looks like Kamala is going to win, they can easily pump the markets. Easily pump the markets. I mean, they just print up the money. Who cares? They don't even have to print it. They just send it over in digital form. 90% of the U.S. dollar is already digital. That's why it always made me laugh when people are like, "Oh, we don't want to go digital money." It's already digital, guys. What do you think happens to your money when you put it in the bank? When you get your automatic deposit, if you keep your money in the bank, it's digital. But they could easily pump the market if Kamala gets in. And we saw that leading up to Biden's getting in. They pumped the mess out of the markets. Look at how much money you have. Don't worry about everything. Look at how much money you have. You have so much paper money. You're worth so much more than you were before. Now, optimism can also drive markets. Trump gets in, we could end up with a big pump. But of course, on the 7th, if the Fed can come out and they can lower interest rates or raise interest rates or leave interest rates. And if they leave interest rates, I don't think they're going to raise interest rates, but if they don't lower interest rates, then everything's going to crash, at least for a little bit. Now, chances are they're going to lower interest rates either way, okay? Either way. And let me be clear, Trump should win. There is no doubt about it. Trump should win. The reason you have Kamala coming out and crying about Adolf Hitler and the Jews and 6 million Jews is because she's desperate. And that, I played the clip earlier. I mean, it was like desperation. Biden is so out there. Who knows what he is? He's just Biden, crazy Biden. But we'll have to see, how this all plays out because of I'm not optimistic because of the machines. He should win. I want him to win. Go vote. Make sure you vote. Vote. And we're going to find out very soon if our vote matters. The other part that I didn't talk about the whole show is, of course, all the newcomers, quote unquote, the newcomers. 20 million odd newcomers that we have to deal with as well. We have 20 million people who have come here. If 1% vote, that's 200,000 votes. Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 10,000 votes. He lost by over 100,000 votes in 2020. Pennsylvania was something similar. I might have had those two mixed up. Anyway, they're all close. North Carolina. These states very easily flip. Like so easy. If 1% of the newcomers, quote unquote, vote. And, you got to think as well, guys, of course they're giving amnesty to these people. They're probably have already given amnesty to at least 1% and just not told you. If they're talking about giving amnesty to them, and I guess if, pathway to citizenship, if they're talking about making them a citizen, then they already have. That's what you always have to know about Washington. That's how it works here. Once they're talking about it, they're already doing it. So we'll see how it all plays out. Anyway, a lot of exciting stuff going on, guys. I can tell you with our friends here at Smart Money Culture TV Network. I mean, Fly Mackey's doing a great job, and we're doing it. So lots of love to everybody. That is a wrap for today. For now, I'll be back on your TVs in 5 hours. Oh, before I go, let me just go over here and look at my guys here. here. Look at my guys. All right. Oh, hold on here. Sulky. Look, Sulky's on a run, guys. Sulky the dog. Share this tab. Add to screen. Sulky the dog. From the bottom, it's moving up. Of course, this is a community takeover coin that I am supporting. One of our partners on here, okay, it's one of our partners, full disclosure, not financial advice. We get paid to do this stuff, okay? But we're long on Soul Key, and I'm in direct contact, of course, with team, and these guys are moving it. Soul Key the dog, a fun meme coin, and these guys are moving it. Okay? It's on Solana. And you can get in for a song right now. Pick yourself up a million or two or even 3 or 4 if you want. And there's going to be 100 million. So if you have 1 million, then you're doing good. You have 1%. You buy more than that, you get yourself 2, 3, 4, 5%, and you're styling. This thing goes. You got 5%. This thing goes to 1 million, which is like, I don't know, pretty easy for these types of things. Not financial advice. Could go to 0, right? I don't think so, but could, right? Theoretically. But it goes to 1 million, and you got yourself $50,000 if you buy 5%, which is for a song right now. SoulKeyTheDog.com. SoulKey, S-O-L, like Solana. SoulKey the dog. Check them out. Okay, now I'm done. I'll be back on your TVs in 5 hours. And of course, we'll be back streaming again tomorrow with another great show. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.